What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and I know what you're thinking. Why? This is not a new game. This is a game that's been out for years now. Why this review? Well, I did have a good friend of mine recommend this series to me, and it's a series that I've heard a lot about and I have wanted to play for a while, but I've just, for some reason, never had the chance, never really had the interest of picking it up. But whenever I heard some of the recommendations from her, she really recommended it, and I'm like, you know what? Hey, it's on sale on Steam. I'm gonna give it a shot. So yeah, I got the whole series, and I do plan on playing through all of them. But for the moment, I just finished the first one, and I finished only one of the endings. So probably gonna take a break between this one and playing BioShock 2, and just have a chance to one look at some of the other bonus stuff, some of the other endings that I didn't get, and also give me a chance to watch some TV shows and review those. But for now, let's look at Bioshock. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way. Graphics, I mean, it is what it is. This game was released in 2007, so over a decade old. For what it is, though, it still looks pretty good. I mean, the style of the game, the artistic direction of the game is pretty well done. I mean, it's very unique. When I look at some of these artistic choices, I know it's a BioShock game because I've seen the artistic choices just, from clips, from previews, from, the concept art and stuff. I've seen pieces of this art before and I know what the BioShock art looks like. So it is very distinct, and even though it does look a little bit dated now, it still holds up pretty well. So I'll just go ahead and throw that one out there. Like, that's not really one I'm going to focus on too much. But first of all, let's talk about the story. I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. If you haven't played it and you don't know any of the plot, probably shouldn't watch this. If you somehow manage to avoid any of the plot twists and stuff. For me, unfortunately, because I do follow quite a few video game channels, and I've watched a lot of top 10 things before. I did know about the major plot twist in this one, which there are a few, a couple that I didn't know for sure. But the Would You Kindly is definitely something that I've heard of. I knew exactly what it was whenever Atlas was telling you at the beginning of the game, would you kindly go and do? I'm just like, okay, yeah, I know what the would you kindly is. I know it's the mind control making me do this. So that I wasn't thrown off by because I already knew. But I will say, aside from that, there are still some other surprises that the game gives you. So for me personally, I don't know how much the story changes based on what you do. I chose to save the girls, like, instead of harvesting them. So I don't know if that changes anything, but I enjoyed where the story went. I enjoyed you're on kind of this mission. You think you're working with this guy, Atlas, and he does seem like a genuinely good guy. And you hear about this battle between, like, this supposed ghost, Fontaine, and then going up against Ryan, and it's like, who's got more control and trying to take control of Rapture and all this stuff. So whenever you get to that point and you start to realize the would you kindly is actually something that's being used against you, it did sort of surprise me. Like, I was thinking, okay, so Atlas isn't a good guy because I know about that twist. So who is he? Why is he doing this? What's the point of all of this? And so whenever you find out he's actually Fontaine and he's been supposed dead this whole time and he's actually been working behind the scenes, like, I really like that twist because you've heard a bit about him. You've heard a couple people who are scared of him because they think he's still around, but people are just like, no, he's dead. He's definitely dead. I don't know. I like how they handled that. The only thing I will say that goes against the story, in my opinion, is it does sort of feel like there are certain plot points that, I don't know, they pop up once and then you just sort of like keep going on the story and it just keeps moving very quickly. Like, I don't know. I don't want things to be harped on too much, but also there are moments where I just kind of felt like, wait, what was just said there? Like, it does move sort of fast. And also, like, the little, not necessarily side stories, but you get the little video or radio logs, and they do sort of help fill in some of the gaps, but I do feel like some of them were pretty important. And then all of a sudden, like, it's getting cut off because somebody started talking or something started happening, and now I'm having to focus on this, and I can't really hear what's being said because I'm also listening to that. So there are points when it feels like it's maybe moving a little too fast in the action sections, and it's not giving me enough of the story. On top of that, I will say the one side story where you have to go deal with the artist. I think his last name's Cohen. Dealing with him was kind of just a little bit of a came out of nowhere, and you have to deal with that for a little bit, and then it's over, just like that. I'm just like, okay, did that contribute to anything? Is he gonna come back at all? I ended up killing him at the end of all of it because I saw that I could get to a chest if I killed him and took a key off of him, so I did that, and then never heard about him again. I'm just like, okay, like if you don't kill him, does something else happen? So there are going to be a few things that maybe on the second playthrough I'll notice a bit more. But as far as the first time playing through, aside from already knowing that I was completely, or the knowing the Would You Kindly, I was completely clueless, and it did feel like sometimes it left me in the dust. Like honestly, I was messaging my friend about it, and she was like, "Oh, so did you know that Andrew Ryan was your dad?" And I was like, "Wait, what? He was?" Like, because I completely missed that. And of course, Fontaine at some point's talking about me being grown in a lab and stuff. I'm like, wait, so I have no mother, but he's my dad, but I was grown in a lab. Like, it was a little confusing. And again, probably on the second playthrough, I'll catch more of it. But as far as like playing through the first time, it did feel like certain plot points came at you real quick. And especially when a lot of stuff was happening too, and all of a sudden he's saying all of this, and I just got lost. So maybe it's me. I mean, I'm not really, I don't have ADD or ADHD or anything, but I am the kind of person who it's hard to focus sometimes. Like whenever something is going on in the game and it's just sort of like the gameplay segments, it's hard for me to just be doing that. I like to have like some music on in the background or something else going on, just because if I'm only playing this game, like, I don't know, just mindlessly shooting and mindlessly doing all this stuff, it doesn't really interest me as much. So I kind of got, I think, a little distracted at points because I was so focused on one thing, and then something else is going on in the background, and then all of a sudden story elements just pop up. It's probably just me, but that's kind of how I felt about it. But yeah, other than that, like I said, I don't know how much of the saving the girls or not saving the girls affects the story. I know, I mean, I ended up working with Tenenbaum, and she was the one that was helping me, like, attack Fontaine and get the atom out of him, and the girls ended up stepping in and killing him in the end. So I don't know how much changes if you don't save the girls. So I'll be curious to see how the story plays out second time if I choose something different. But as far as the first playthrough, like, I did like that element. I like the fact that if you do save the girls, they end up coming along and they help you, and you become a big daddy yourself, and now you're kind of helping the girls, and they see you as their protector, and they start helping you because of it. So I don't know. I like that element of it, and again, the story, even though there are times when the plot came at me really fast, I still enjoyed a lot of the story, and I enjoyed how you didn't really know who to trust, and you couldn't even really trust your own memories because they were false and they were planted. So yeah, I always like stories like that when it's kind of a who can you trust type of thing. I would have liked to see a few more characters, like just, I don't know, it felt like there were a lot of characters that were brought up, and maybe they'll come up in later games, or maybe more characters will be added, but I felt like a lot of the characters I dealt with were all over radio. Like, I rarely talked to characters face to face. And I don't know, it just felt a little impersonal because of that. And I'm sure that it might just be because, of the time, like maybe they couldn't really do all of that plus the other stuff. But there were definitely times when I just kind of felt like I was sort of running through, and I'm talking to everybody on the radio, and I'm not actually seeing anybody, and I'm not talking face to face with anyone. If I ever saw anyone, I'm just like, okay, well, they're an enemy, so I have to shoot them. So I don't know, I was a little disappointed with that, but again, it might just be constraints on the game. They weren't really able to give you a lot of chances to have dialogue with characters. So I think that's about it story-wise. As far as the gameplay, I really like the gameplay, and I'm not normally one for first-person shooter. Sometimes they interest me, sometimes they don't. This one, I felt like had some fun elements to it. This is actually my first time playing a first-person shooter on mouse and keyboard. I'm normally used to using a controller, so for that, that idea of first time on mouse and keyboard with a first person shooter, I felt like it was very accessible. Like, I didn't feel like I was falling behind. There were a couple moments when I was kind of rushing to do things. Like, a lot of stuff was happening, a lot of enemies were attacking. And so, because of that, I was a little panicked. And I could feel myself like fumbling, and I'm changing to the wrong gun that I have no bullets for, or I'm changing to like the chemical thrower, so I'm like freezing them instead of actually shooting them. I'm like, wait, no, that's not what I wanted. So there were a few times where my newbiness on the mouse and keyboard did trip me up. But other than that, like whenever it was just a few, I played on standard just to not make it too hard, but also somewhat of a challenge. It was very accessible for me. Like I felt like I understood things very quickly. It felt like it came to me very naturally. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and I feel like it is a very accessible game to get into quickly. I enjoyed the whole plasmid thing. You kind of have to choose what you're going to use. Because it does make you think what's the best option for this, what is the best choice for this battle. Do you need the fire one for this one, do you need to have electricity on? And honestly, I will say I didn't really explore all of my options, but I feel like that's kind of a good thing. Like I was very limited on what I used, but the fact that there were more options that I didn't even look into kind of makes me excited to go on a second playthrough. Because now I can go and I can say, all right, what did I not use? Is this more effective? Is this less effective? Because there were a lot of things left. Like I hardly touched the swarm. I didn't really do any of the frost stuff. I hardly used the chemical thrower, to be perfectly honest. And then on top of that, like some of the bonus stats that you get, like I kind of stuck with my main thing to help with like the hacking and all of that stuff, and helping with like giving me more health and Eve. But I didn't really look at the other things. I didn't really look and see, all right, what else do I have that might benefit me in a battle? Like I kind of just stuck very basic. So I will be excited to play again and just sort of say, all right, what can I do differently this time? What can I give myself that will change it up a little bit? I always love whenever a game can do that and give you that option, give you the ability to look at a different style of play and not just stick to your one main thing and then that's it. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. The hacking was a little easy on mouse and keyboard. I assume on controller it's probably more difficult just because you have to like open up all the squares and then move the stuff. There were a couple times when I got tripped up just because, I mean, honestly, there were moments when the safe literally, or just any sort of hacking, it literally set me up to where I couldn't win. Like they had the alarms and stuff set up to where I couldn't get around them. But once I leveled up my hacking enough, it wasn't any problem. But yeah, it was a little easy. Just basically click everything really fast and then hopefully open up enough around the starting spot to where you can make sure you don't get trapped down there or wherever you are. So it was okay. Like I enjoyed it the first few times, but it did get a little monotonous, and just because it was pretty easy, like I just didn't feel myself enjoying it as time went on. Um, but I do like the fact that they tend to readily give you options to get around hacking. Like I still tried to hack more often than not, but I like the fact that there were so many options to, oh, you can use the hacking tool, or you can buy it. And at least on standard, it felt like it was very easy to do that because right around the corner is a you invent, and then you can invent another hacking tool, or most of the time you're getting a ton of cash from killing big daddies or killing enemies and finding cash on them. So it felt like it was very easy to spend stuff and just get around the hacking, which is always nice to do. But if you don't want to risk losing that, if you don't want to risk possibly giving up some of that, then also there's the option to just, hey, just do the hacking. It's not really that much of a problem. But yeah, I think that's about it on the gameplay as well. As far as battles are concerned, like most of them were pretty simple. Just a lot of shooting. Some guns were more effective than others. I don't know. I tended to find myself using either the machine gun, or the crossbow by the end of the game. Occasionally, if there were a lot of enemies, I'd whip out like the rocket launcher. If there were a lot of melee enemies, I'd whip out the shotgun. Occasionally, I'd use a pistol if I was running low on ammo with the machine gun. But yeah, I that's pretty much all I really did. The electrifying enemies and then hitting them with the wrench, it felt like it stopped working after the first couple rounds. I don't even, they're not really worlds or levels. But like the first couple places that I went, that was kind of my go-to, just to conserve ammo, because I was getting a good helping of they're called the Evos, the thing that restores your Eve. I was getting a good helping of that, so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to stick to doing electrify and then hit them with a wrench. Electrify, hit them with a wrench. But then at some point, it stopped being as effective, like I stopped taking down as much of their health, and there started to be enemies that I couldn't electrify, so then I just started to use my guns, and then I don't know, at some point I just had so much ammo and I had so much money too that I could just restore my ammo, and it was just kind of a replenishing effect after that, so it wasn't too much of a difficult time for me after that. I did die a few times, mostly to Big Daddies. I rarely just died to random enemies. Um, it was mostly the Big Daddies that got me, and just because like I'm still kind of figuring out how to deal with them. I think I started to get it as the game got near the end. Like I started to kind of get a bit of a rhythm on how to deal with them. Um, but yeah, for most of the game, I was struggling to deal with them, and they killed me quite a bit. So that was a good difficulty challenge for me, was trying to deal with them without dying more than once. um, and then boss wise, like most bosses weren't too hard. Even facing Fontaine at the end, he wasn't that much of a difficult boss. Like basically just sort of dodging him, and he was a lot easier to dodge than the Big Daddies, if I'm being honest, which was kind of a surprise to me. I'm thinking, okay, well, if they are this hard to dodge, like it feels like they either shoot me, or if it's the melee ones, they just constantly hit me. I can never get around them. With Fontaine, it just like it felt like I was dodging him no problem. Like I just sidestep him barely, and he just go flying past me. So yeah, not too much of a difficult boss battle in my opinion, but again, I don't know how much of that changes based on what you do with the girls, because I feel like that kind of, I know that's what affects the ending. I don't know how much though, and that's kind of what I'm interested to see with the second playthrough. But I mean, the fact that there is such accessibility with a second playthrough does make me think that this is a very well done game, because you always want your players to want to play more, and you want to give them value for what they're buying. So the fact that they did include not only multiple endings but also kind of a choice, and again, I don't know how much it changes. It may not change much of anything aside from the ending, but the fact that there's a possibility makes me want to play again. And the fact that there is more options for my combat, there is more choices for me to make that could affect how my game goes. Yeah, I think that's a very well done strategy to keep people interested, to keep them engaged in playing again. So yeah, I think overall, I mean, very well done game. I thought it's definitely living up to the hype that I've heard a lot of people over the years talk about, and I'm sure that 2 and Infinite, I'm just as excited to play those as well, just to see where they decide to take the series from here. How's it going to involve the people that were in this game? Is it going to involve them at all, or are we going to get to meet other people? I don't know. I'm very curious, but yeah, overall it's a very good game, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Have you played BioShock? If so, what did you think? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe, future video game reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.